What up, everybody? Scuff D here, and little overdue, just a smidge overdue. Happy Easter Eve, depending on where you are at in the world. It's Saturday for me, April 3rd. We've got Bar Night Legions coming up in about 4 or 5 hours. Going to be doing the Wingman format, so that's going to be a fun thing. I may or may not be available to record and or stream some of those games, but we're going to try for that. But that's not what we're here to do. We're going to talk about the game updates. When I say game updates, I mean community updates that are taking place briefly, and then I'm going to be talking about the March decklist contest winners as well as the April decklist contest theme. So there's not, March has been a relatively low-key month for updates, but take heart because every guild is at work to get us the expansion that's coming. I'm not sure what the name of the expansion is going to be. They haven't announced the Q&A. I did receive an email from them this morning, though. That was a response to an email I sent like 3 weeks ago, and I hadn't heard anything back about spoilers for the upcoming expansion. Most importantly, my favorite Legion, and things are good. Things are looking good. I'll hear more from them as we get down there. So nothing hard confirmed, but that's what they're working on. So take that to heart. I really do hope we see one last patch before we get into that expansion, simply because once a new expansion hits, typically the majority of the patches that take place then kind of focus on refining the factions and the cards that have been released, and you don't see too many of the older cards get worked in or get updated. You do a little bit of handfuls, but not in the interim as often. So if we're going to get a patch to take care of some previous existing factions, now's the time to do it, or at least in the next 2 weeks. We've talked about on the podcast, we talked about what Inner Sanctum is looking like for the rewards. If you haven't checked out the podcast, please go ahead and do so. The Warp Chatter podcast, doing that weekly every Thursday. That's available on most podcast platforms, listening platforms. I have some issues with the Apple Store, so that's the only one the only big one I can't get on. But Inner Sanctum, I think generally we're going to be getting this Chaos one. It would be just hard pressed for them to turn around these results at this point, and that Chaos one is really good. So I'm actually looking forward to getting that. We've got the World Cup taking place here. The qualifiers are underway. I think we've got 8 players registered for the United States qualifiers, so I'm going to be trying to share my games as far as I go in that. I'd like to qualify for the U.S. team again and be part of Team USA, so if I get to do that, I will. If I don't, I'll be cheering on whoever's in Team USA, and we'll go from that. But that is something that you can look forward to as well. Now, with all that said and done, I think it's time to take a look at the winners of the March decklist contest. Now, the March decklist contest, the theme was Cultists, and I only had 9 submissions for March, which was surprising, and I'm not sure. I think it's just kind of the lull of the expansion, just the way the times go. Sometimes before the expansion, people kind of lose interest. So only 9 entries. The theme was Cultists. It was a very broad, open theme, and it made it easy for me to judge and pick out the winners. And so, without further ado, let's get into the winners. Let's show off who we've got and their interpretations of the theme. So, we've got coming in here hot. Got Cult of the Blessed Lady. This was submitted by GMAT. GMAT submitted this. It's a word bears. Word bears and cultists go hand in hand here. So as you can see, we've got Dagatal Bikes, cultist acolytes, horse occultists, righteous zealots, undercover cultists. With all these cultists and these chaos cards, it's very easy for ROM to be the build. It's more, you've got multiple chaos cards of more than 15. And the word bearers can really take advantage of that. And of course, you've got Acleon, leading them with fanatical zeal, all the cultists, all because of the Raison of Monarchia. And the Ashen Circle and their secret devotion to the Eightfold Brand really kind of helps them create this summoning ritual. You've got the Dark Blessing kind of bringing forth this Dark Martyr as a result of this cult, and they really just go from there. A lot of cultists ultimately worshiping the best way cultists can. So that was third place. That was submitted by GMAT. The second place was submitted by the Knights, and this is Rise on the Attack. And this is really interesting because this was a cultist deck taking advantage of the Mirror Astellan's ability, but also kind of turning the little story on its head of the cultists and an uprising, on Caliban. Despite the vigilance of the Knights of Caliban, or the Defenders of Caliban, as it were, and their strategic mastery, Aclean Wordsinger is able to raise the banner over a knightly fortress behind enemy lines, and her cultist fanatics, her Cygnus fanatics and disciples and brotherhood kind of create a local uprising and get involved here to subdue, despite the Defenders of Caliban's, efforts and the irresistible charisma. Sergeant Yopiel makes double use here in the fact that he is able to allow for those infantry units, and there's quite a lot of them, to act again. So that was just a neat little deck idea that I liked. It was a warlord that took advantage of cultists, as well as just the story that it can tie in there. So congratulations, second place to the Knights. And third place is going to go to Ampharo 08. That's the in-game name for the player. Ampharo 08 submitted Lambs for the Slaughter. This is again another Words Bearer deck. And this is a Zardu Layak, who is probably... That's a hard call because I don't think you can go wrong with the Word Bearers and Cultists, really. But this really ties into the more traditional efforts with the Zezical Squad and the Cygnus Fanatics. You've got Swordback Paul leading the way over his cultists. You've got a variety of them with their fanaticals. You've got Brutes, Adepts. You've got Jadimus Squad, who can create cultists on their own. Acleon again makes an appearance. She's a key card. She's been in all the decks, and there's nothing wrong with that. Diabolist Vol, who can feed upon the sacrifices of these cultists, as well as the Mulner veterans. And then, of course, with the Architect of Heresy, you create this summoning ritual that brings forth a Slayer of Worlds. Summoning ritual times 2 in this deck, with just the abundance of Chaos Cultists and Chaos Troops, makes it a very easy way to go. And again, thematically, this just works. It works as a faction. It works as a unit. The deck itself, I think, can play decently enough, and there's nothing wrong with hitting a Slayer of Worlds, maybe even a multiple Slayer of Worlds, depending on what your rituals bring forth, or at the very least, you're going to have some very strong Demon Host troops with Zardu Layak. So that was submitted by Ampharo 08. That was the contest winner for March. So congratulations. So first place for that is going to get first place for the decklist contest gets 1,000 gold. Second place gets 500 gold. Third place gets 300 gold. It's that simple. That's all you have to do is submit a decklist with the theme, send a screenshot to me, and give it a name and go from there. Now, that was March. April's decklist contest, I picked this out in advance because I anticipated in April we would have the Imperial Fists, and that's still very possible that we'll have the Imperial Fists in April, but I don't have a date. I'm hoping the end of April, so we'll see. But the theme for April is Fortified. Fortified, that's it. So again, another broad theme. What does Fortified mean to you? Does Fortified mean fortify your position with frontline troops? Does it mean structures? Are you going to be using a lot of neutral cards? Are we going to be using bunkers? Are we going to be using Forex from the Iron Warriors? Are we going to use underground forts, which could be fortified of in their own right? Or perhaps fortified means a little something different to you thematically. how do certain warlords fortify their positions? It's different for each faction. Every faction has got their own way of playing. Perhaps the fortification with the Raven Guard plays in completely different in terms of insertion. Inserting key troops to fortify a position for a larger force down the road. Or for Blood Angels, maybe fortification just means a host of angels descending and fortifying a position with lots of drop pod troops. Fortified is very broad. If we have the Imperial Fists before the end of April, you can absolutely submit your Imperial Fist decks, whatever you've got thrown together for the contest as well. There's no cards that are excluded here. It is the submission window is until April 25th though. So if we don't have the faction or the expansion released prior to 4/25, then that's just not going to be an option. That doesn't mean that they won't be an option for May's contest. But for April, the theme is fortified. March only had 9 decklist submissions. It makes it very easy for, that's really 1 out of 9 people is getting 1,000 gold. So if you would like to get some gold for the upcoming expansion, 1,000 gold is 10 crates. It's an easy contest to submit. I'd like to see what you guys have got. I'd like to see what the submissions are. And I look forward to seeing what you guys have to offer. So good luck. Congratulations to the winners for March. And yeah, so that's it. We will see what you have to offer, and we'll be revealing the winners again here as well. So with all that said and done, we've talked about the World Cup qualifiers. The Warp Chatter podcast is going to be out and available every Thursday. I've been doing that now for 11 weeks, 12 weeks now. 12 weeks now by the time you see this. So really enjoying working on that project. It does take a little bit more time for me to do outside of the content video, but it's a different type of content. It's more engaging with community members. And if you have listened to the podcast or you would like to take part of the podcast is by players for players. So if you would like to be on, reach out to me, send me a message in Discord or comment or on Reddit. I'd like to have players of all sorts on as guests. I'd like to know who's out there. What are you playing? What do you enjoy playing? What got you into the game and the community? What's your story? That's really part of what the podcast is all about, as well as talking about the topic of the hour. And that's we've so far covered a variety of things. Sometimes there's game updates. Sometimes there's themes, factions, concepts, just discussion stuff. It's fun. It's been a really good time, and I think the people who've been on have enjoyed doing it too. So look forward to that. This upcoming week, I think Kazrim's going to be on the episode, so you can expect to have the discussion there. We've got Kazrim on, and then the week after, I'm hoping we'll have spoilers, but that really kind of depends on what Everguild announces or doesn't announce. So that's it for me. That's what I've got. These videos are always short with the deck contest winners and the contest announcements. So thank you for tuning in, watching. I've got some videos upcoming though. I have a few deck lists that I've been working on. Definitely going to be sharing the World Cup qualifier stuff that I'm playing in, as well as I've got to get to the card by cards and finish them up. Now, I will say this right up front. I am not going to do the card by card for Night Houses just yet. I just did the card by card for Defenders of Caliban, and I really don't think it's fair to do Night Houses because I still am holding out hope that there will be one final patch for that faction. So I'm actually going to do neutrals, but neutrals are so big, and these card by cards take a long time. I really think I have to break them up into 2 parts for each faction. And that's still going to be a lot of time. So you can expect at least 6 parts of the neutrals. Probably 2 for Imperial Army, 2 for Mechanicum, and 2 for Chaos. It's going to be a long series, guys, but we're going to get through it. It's been a trudge to catch up, but I think it's been very beneficial. A lot of people have enjoyed that. I really appreciate the feedback that I've been getting from everybody on the card by cards, from the deck list, from whatever videos I'm doing. If you like the content that you see here, please subscribe to the channel, spread the word of mouth, let people know. This is, informative stuff that I like to try to share out there, not just replays. Replays are great, but there's so much more to the game and understanding parts of the game that I like to share with people. And that's really the message and the things that I try to do with these videos. So if you find them helpful, or you think somebody else will find them helpful, please share, recommend, like, and subscribe. You know, it helps me out. And I'm looking forward to trying to hit 800 subs before the end of summer. That would be fantastic. Just for me, just as a personal goal. So, with that being said, I'm going to end this video, and I'm going to get to work on my deck list video. You can expect to see that in a couple days. Samus. Look out. Samus is here. That's who we're doing next, baby. So if you want to see it, just hold your breath. Don't hold it for too long. You might be disappointed. You might not. I don't know. Maybe you won't be surprised. So, thank you guys, everybody, for tuning in. Until next time, keep playing Legions, and we'll talk to you later. Bye.
And now it's time for great moments in top decking history.